Right, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of the Good and the Head podcast here exclusively on YouTube and Facebook Live. Today we have a special guest, Cristina Archer has agreed to join us. Just a little about her. She's from Calgary, which is a city in Alberta, Canada. She's someone who has traveled the world, which I hope to hear about in the interview. She's an online personal coach and nutritionist, and she is the director and nutrition coach at Hardwodder Nutrition. She and her husband Jason owned CrossFit North Phoenix. It's a CrossFit gym, and they are someone who I esteem as extreme as a couple and as individuals. And I have a lot of respect for them both. She's most importantly a fellow coffee lover. And her favorite quote is, "Do something today that your future self will thank you for." She posts weekly in a private Facebook group, Hardwodder One, the self-mastery lifestyle, which we will put a link to in the show notes. And she does a couple of things that I'm interested to learn more about. One is called Tasty Tuesday Recipes, which she puts out within that private group every Tuesday, and also a Wellness Wednesday tip. Welcome to the show, Cristina. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Before we get started, first of all, I saw you cheersing with the coffee.
Yeah, cheers for the coffee.
And what I'd love to start out with is a brief summary of your life story so far, leading up to and including where all you have traveled and seen. What was it in 2009 that inspired you to change your mindset and personal nutrition plan? Let's start with your childhood and go from there, if we could.
Okay. Well, I grew up in Calgary. I was born in Calgary, Alberta, and my parents actually immigrated from Italy. So they raised me and my brother and my sister in Calgary. And my mom, at a young age, so I was 4, my mom opened an Italian restaurant. So I started my working career when I was 4, you can say. She had me at the restaurant all the time. And it was an amazing experience. It was kind of a love-hate. And as I grew up, I was very athletic. I played all the sports. Basketball was my main sport that I ended up playing. So went to school, went to college in Calgary and played basketball at the college there. And while I was at college, I had the opportunity to go work on a cruise ship. So that's how all my travel happened. And I accepted a job offer to work for Holland America Cruise Lines. And I thought I would do that for 4 months. And I finished out that first semester of 1995, I think it was, or 96. And then I left, and it was 5 years. I ended up traveling, and I had set a goal at the time. I had put it out there to the universe. I said, you know what? If I'm going to do this, I want to get to all 7 continents. And as long as I'm seeing new things and my contracts keep offering me like a new place in the world, I'm going to continue to do this. And I did, and I kept getting like amazing opportunities. So I saw the world. I had some first experiences that I feel so grateful for. Like, you know, the first time I ate Thai food, I was in Thailand. And the first time I had, went scuba diving, I was on the Great Barrier Reef. And the first time, like all these amazing first times that I feel, so fortunate to have had that experience, from age 21 to 25. And then I came back to Calgary and went back to school, and I started my working career in the corporate world, and I had actually started in working part-time for Starbucks of all places. And when I was traveling, I was always a big lover of, looking for the Starbucks wherever I was. And so, excuse me, it was fitting for me to go work there part-time. And then I ended up continuing to grow with the company, and became a district manager for them, and worked as a district manager for, it was about 8 years.
Oh, wow. With Starbucks.
with Starbucks. Yeah. And part of that growth was, you had asked about me in 2009. So when I got to 2009, I had a friend who I had met through Starbucks. She had worked through Starbucks. She invited me to go do like a personal development course. It's called seminars, one of the oldest, longest living personal development courses out there. And I was at a place in my life where, I had gained weight and I was working lots and I wasn't in a relationship that I was happy with. And there was a lot of things that I knew like I wanted more, but I didn't know how I was going to get there. I lived in the basement of my parents' house still. And I wanted to, do more, but I didn't know how I was going to do that. So that really, catapulted me, because I ended up in 2009. It was beginning of the year when I did their first weekend. It was like a 4-day course. And then they had these extended courses. You could go to California on a ranch, and they had a group, all course where it was like all men and women. They did, 7 days. It was called 7. And
Oh, wow.
I
So
did
the 4-day thing, is that in a group or is it online?
that was in a group. It's very experiential. So, you're doing activities with people, and there was probably about 100 people in the seminar. And it was really powerful for me. And so I did that. And then I went to California and did the 7-day course. And then they had a women's leadership or men's leadership. And I did the women's leadership. And then they had this other, sort of gathering every year where they brought in all different speakers. And I actually met Jason at the Size 7 course.
Who's your husband now?
Yeah, he's my husband now. And we never hooked up at the course because, it's a vulnerable kind of thing, right? There was high ropes and low ropes kind of things that we were doing, big group sessions. It's a very like an experiential type of seminar when we were, at the ranch. And so we met and we exchanged numbers. And back at that time, it was like BlackBerry days. So we had BlackBerry Messenger and we kept in touch. And
what was your thoughts or your first impressions about Jason when you first sort of met him in person?
It was interesting because I always remember the first time I laid eyes on him, and we were in a big room, like kind of like the ranch had this giant gathering room. So it was a big open room and there was chairs, and he came walking towards me and he was chewing a piece of gum, and like he was chewing, and I was like, oh, look at that stupid American. It's just like, and he ended up like sitting next to me, and, we met. And it was funny because, in hindsight, that first impression of him chewing gum, he has these great teeth, like big, and a big smile. And so he never chews gum, and I never chew gum, but someone had handed him a piece of gum when he walked in the room, and he's chewing this gum. And so then I had in my head, like, who's this guy like chewing gum and being, had this, persona about him. But we met, and we ended up, through that 7 days, in groups together here and there, and talking and getting to know each other. And there was a little bit of time, in the evenings to gather with different people and talk. So we got to know each other a little bit more. And then there was a large group of us that sort of clicked, and we all ended up staying in San Francisco for a night at the end of the course. And so he stayed, I stayed. There was a big group of us, and so we got to know each other a little bit more. And then we just kept in touch. It wasn't until like 90 days later, this is when I had hired a coach. I had done another 90-day sort of goal setting course with the same company, and I had a coach. And I had coach calls 3 times a week. And my coach, had been talking to Jason. Now this is, we had met in April, but now this is like near the end of June. And he challenged me to do something, to to invite myself to go see Jason in Phoenix. And after all the travel in the world, I had never actually been to Arizona. And so I used that as a good excuse when I called him and I was like, listen, I've never seen Arizona. You know, we've got this thing going on and I want to come like see you, visit you and see if there's something here. And so then the rest was history. I flew into Phoenix and we basically, you know, we had a strong attraction to each other and we continued on with, you know, I wouldn't say we started like dating. I said we didn't have the going steady conversation until probably that October. And then we managed to live a long distance relationship for, well, gosh, that was 2009 in the fall that we had the going steady conversation. We ended up getting married in 2011 and I didn't actually move. We didn't live full time together until 2018. So
Oh, wow. That had to be
a long time apart.
challenging. Wow.
Yeah, we went back and forth. We had a few rules, like not letting 6 weeks or more go by. And I would come down to Arizona or he would come up to Calgary. And we spent probably 6 months of the year together, but it was sporadic throughout the year. So we had lots of time apart.
Yeah. And lots of time together, sounds like. What was it? You said you had a strong attraction, and I'm guessing it wasn't just physical. What all attracted you guys together?
You know, I think when I think about it, we're very similar, but we're also very opposite. Yeah, and I saw a lot of strength in him, and he's very intelligent, and I was drawn to that. You know, we could really have some great conversations and talk for a long time and debate on certain things. And he challenged my thinking a lot. And I liked that. I was really, especially in that year and every year since, I just really want to grow and learn and change. And I got the mindset of, you know, if I'm resisting this, I must, you know, figure out what it is and how do I change. And he called forth things. It was hard at first because he was very opinionated, and I had the mentality of, I have more of the mentality. I've worked on this a little bit more of, you know, wanting to please people and maybe not necessarily do exactly what I want, for the sake of not, you know, the fear of not being liked or the fear of not, and he was just, you know, this is how I feel and this is what I think. And I saw so much power in that. Now I think that he's definitely rounded out his way of approaching people with that opinion. And, you know, I think it was a little harsh maybe in the beginning, when we first met, and he's been going through his whole growth and journey. Mm-hmm. And so it's interesting because it was like some of the things that I resist the most about him that were the things that drew me so much to him, you know. Yeah. There was something inside me that wanted to learn and grow and change.
Honestly, I got to say, in the few years that I've known Jason and you, and followed him and learned from him, I was attracted to Jason in the same ways. We met through a Facebook group called Impact Theory, and he really challenged me in a lot of ways, physically, financially, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. I mean, he's a very well-rounded individual at this point in his life, and I've enjoyed the example of a certain way of being. And mm-hmm. we all know, you know, results don't lie, right? Yeah. And I love the results of your lifestyle that you guys have created together throughout these years. It's just inspirational for me, and I know for a lot of other people as well. So
thank you.
To anyone out there who isn't currently following Jason and Cristina, and Hardwodder 1, like I said, there's going to be some links in the notes, and I highly recommend that you guys check them out and follow them and learn from them all that you can and absorb the information that they share, because they have spent years up-leveling and upgrading who they are as humans. And it really is phenomenal what they've done. You guys owned the gym in Phoenix. How long did you own that for?
So the gym came to be in 2015, 2013. Was it 2015? It was about 7 years total, almost to the month actually, that we had the gym. And I wasn't participating much in those first years because I was in Canada, but I would come and I would do the classes. And Jason was more operationally. He was there was Corey, and there was three people that were kind of Corey and Mary. They were operating the gym in the beginning, and Jason would do a lot of the back end work and set up the marketing and do the lead work and sales. So he wasn't day in and day out at the gym in the beginning, more so doing everything to keep it growing and thriving, and the sales and the marketing. That's his niche. And he also coached because he loves I mean, I don't know another CrossFit coach. I've been to so many different CrossFit gyms, and he's an amazing coach. Just very outward focused, and always helping people with their movement patterns and all that sort of thing. So we did CrossFit North Phoenix. And then when I moved here in 2018, I had this whole dream for a long time to work part-time at a coffee shop and ride a scooter to that coffee shop, make coffees, interact with people, and go home. And so that first year I moved here, I actually I did that we were renovating our house, and then we were running the gym. He was becoming a little bit more like involved in the day-to-day there with coaching and stuff. Mary ended up leaving the business, and so it was Corey and Jason for some time. And then it was time for me. I ended up having a year-long stint as a food and beverage director at a country club here in town. And then I was feeling really out of alignment because I was working a lot. I wasn't taking care of my health, and it was like 80-hour weeks. And I felt like, okay, well, I was only doing it because I was getting paid this massive salary, and I wanted, it was like this money. And I found myself all of a sudden like not healthy and not happy, and like, why am I doing this? What is and so
you paid attention to what was going on with your mind and body, your soul. And I ended up having a health situation come up with me that was serious. I had to go have surgery, and I left that corporate job and said, okay, well, I'm going to come back and I'm going to do my nutrition that I've been wanting to do. I got my first nutrition certificate in 2015, and I had just been helping people, but not coaching or not making a career out of it. And I ended up, we ended up purchasing majority ownership of CrossFit North Phoenix, and then the pandemic hit. And so that was a fun challenge. We ended up, having to close the doors and then reopen the doors and then close the doors, through all the craziness. You had a flooding incident, I remember, and had to close down because of that.
Yeah, actually, all that started. So we had this crazy sewage backup flood thing, and it was February, and that sewage flood happened the day of my surgery. And poor Jason, I just remember like waking up, he's stressing out about the business, but meanwhile he's in the hospital with me, and like, what's going on here, and but it was a hard time, but we got through it, and we built the gym up like amazing. We had a great community. We prided ourselves on really taking time, making small classes, helping people, helping people move their body in what was appropriate for their body, and not just, here's the workout, go do the workout, and have people lift, weights that they shouldn't be lifting and getting injured, right? We really prided ourselves and our trainers on teaching and coaching and training versus just, oh, here's the workout, go kill yourself and then go home,
That's not enjoyable.
Yeah, so it was an amazing experience. I ended up doing lots of lots of nutrition coaching. That's how we built the gym back up, was we marketed nutrition and the gym together. And people, I think majority of people I found were just, they really need help with their nutrition. And
Sure.
and so we were
in
able,
my opinion, that is like the number one thing to look at when living at all, is nutrition. That's like
yeah,
85% of healthy living, and then the rest, like 15%, is the gym. I don't know if you
yeah,
feel the same, but nutrition's huge.
yeah, it's huge. And then we've had this vision of, being more free. Like one of my biggest values is freedom.
What's your
And
definition of freedom?
um, to be able to do what I want, when I want, where I want, and have the ability, not only in doing, but in being a certain way, like being, just being, what are the words, like just being open and being able to communicate what I want to communicate, being able to, just being free of, everything. And even part of that is being free from my own mind, being free from, the crazy, I call it like the devil, the devil and the angel, being free of the devil, dancing with the devil, but being free of my own limitations.
Sure. So we all have certain programming that we received when we were younger. Jason talks a lot about this. The first 6 years of life is the programming stage, and then all of a sudden, bam, it's cut off, and then we live our lives from that set of programming, unless we intentionally and repetitiously later in life reprogram our subconscious mind and then start to create from that place. How do you free yourself from your old programming and that devil on your shoulder and listen more to the angel?
Some of the most powerful breakthroughs for me are probably, and God bless Jason, because he's dealt with my programs, and is just being really vulnerable and honest. As I know, there's feelings or thoughts that I, in the past, may not necessarily have wanted to share. And I would almost avoid it or be shameful of it or whatever the situation was. But through conversations with Jason in certain scenarios, and he's so patient and he's such a great listener and will ask questions and challenge those programs. And I think having the consciousness too of, okay, this is the program talking, not me. And it doesn't make me good or bad. It's just, it is what it is. Right. And so how do I address that? So being aware of it is definitely the first step. And then just doing the work, right? There's a fantastic book called Loving What Is by Byron Katie.
Oh,
Not
wow.
sure if you've heard of it.
Awesome author. I've never heard of the book.
You have to check out her book. And she talks about what she calls the work. And there's basically some worksheets, and it's there's 4 questions. And you basically answer these questions like, is it true? Right? First of all, what I'm thinking, is it true? And then the next question is like, do you know that it's really true? Right? And so what's truth and what's just made up in your head? And it takes you through, and almost, by the time you answer these four questions, you're like, okay, that was kind of silly. I don't know why I was thinking that, or why.
Hey, that's awesome. I'll keep doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so that's been a great tool, journaling, and really but I think the first step is that honesty and that truth, that acceptance of, okay, this is what it is. This is where I've got to work on. This program is not serving me, or it's limiting me, or whatever it is. And I don't think that program will ever go away. I think it's always there. I think you can create new programs, but you just want to, in the situation that you're in, have that new program that you create take over, in the
sort of
situation.
displace the old programming.
Yeah,
That's a
it's
great way to
there.
put it. I like that.
The old one's there, but the new one, now we want to make that one strong and that one rolling.
Oh, personally, I've realized over the years that if I'm exhausted, if I'm hot, if I'm hungry, all these different triggers, that I'll inadvertently and unintentionally relapse into my old programming patterns. And so for me, it's really important to get the proper nutrition, the sleep, and the exercise and the sunlight, in order to be able to operate more optimally through the new programming that I'm wishing and desiring to expand into. But it's like a lifelong process. It really is.
Yeah, and that's where we have, the idea that came out with the self-mastery lifestyle, Hardwodder one, our group, is really, everything is about just mastering. You're mastering your nutrition, you're trying to master your mind, you're trying to master your body when you go to the gym, and like everything, there's some element of, this journey of, I don't think that there's ever that final destination. You're either moving towards what you want to create, or you're moving away from it, or sometimes if you don't have that vision or the goals in place, you're just you're there floating and uncertain in a place. And I've been in that place in my life for sure.
I think everyone can relate to that. When it comes to vision and goals, is there a process that you use, like on a daily basis, to remind yourself of these things you're wishing to expand into and create?
Jason calls it remember your future, right? So we probably the most powerful thing for, is waking up in the morning and thinking about what you want to create for the day, who you want to become. And I think the idea of who do I want to become, it has really grown for me and has really been a great tool, in that I think about, when I went down my health journey and I was wanting to lose weight, I would think, okay, well, who would that person who's fit and lean and excited, who would they like, what would they eat in this moment, right? When I'm in front of something and I'm like tempted to, or
like they all are.
And so when I think about who is it, so that having that vision is the first step, like just putting the efforts into what is it that you want, right? And I think that's been some of the most difficult work I've done in my life, is that what is it that I want? And then putting something forth and moving towards it, right? And that evolves. I think something that I got stuck on was, I would think, okay, I want this thing, but is it perfect, or is it exactly what I want, or do I really know that I want it, right? I would get hung up on, and then almost not make a decision as to what it is I want to create. And that would stall me. And what I realized through experience is just, I want to create this thing, and I'm going to start moving towards this thing, right? And then as I'm moving towards this thing, all of a sudden it changes, or I allow that, whatever it is, to maybe become something different. If on my path I find out, oh, actually, I like this more, I want to go down this route, right? And but it's the act of moving towards something that helps you create that where you want to be,
And it certainly adds momentum into that project. And I think we both realize by now that to know and not to do is not to really know. The action is the thing that is most important of all, because it's the thing that creates the result of information and feedback coming at us at all times, which we can then
Right.
take and readjust and pivot in life. You guys really navigated the whole last few years really well. I know it was probably incredibly stressful, but you guys adapted and you adjusted and you did what was necessary to continue to up level and optimize everything about what you guys are and what you do.
And I would say, in those last few years, like when we were growing the gym, we had come to a point through that pandemic where, okay, like I'm not working and making the salary that I was making. We're here, we've got to build this gym and I want to make it thrive. And we said, well, we've got to find someone that's done it already and that knows, and just surrender to like that coaching. So we had hired a coach to help us build that business and learned so much from that. And if we had not implemented the tools and the advice from that business coach, we probably wouldn't have like grown the community to where we did grow that community. So we, having someone to help us get there was key, like huge, and getting there faster. Like, I think that there would have been there was a lot of times where like, okay, we're just going to follow the process. And there was definitely a lot of struggle, a lot of tears, a lot of, hard things going on, going with it all. It didn't just happen, but I would attribute, a lot of our success to that coach, hiring that coach. And it was hard to hire the coach because we weren't making money and we didn't want to take from our investments and other things that we had going on. We wanted to create cash flow through the business. And okay, so you want us to drop this amount of money on a coach and we're not making money? That was a hard thing to go through and make that investment. But so happy and so glad that we did do that. Because we made it back and some, and now we have the knowledge, right? Like once you invest in yourself and you have the knowledge, no one can take that away from you.
Wow, that brings to light two things. One is the source of where we as individuals go for our information. You sought out someone who was already successful at the level that you wanted to be successful at, and then used that person, paid them to teach you what they knew, and then expanded into where you're at right now. That takes a huge amount of faith. And that reminds me of the second thing, which is a beautiful quote I love by Melody Beattie. She says, letting go is the action part of faith. It's a behavior that gives God and the universe permission to send us what we are truly meant to have.
I love that.
Yeah. So you guys adapted and navigated all of these struggles and grew through them with a coach, someone who had already known such struggles and had achieved a level of success that now you guys are expanding or already expanded into. And now you guys are online coaches for people, and you've been helping people change their lives left and right. I know you do a lot of free work and you do one-on-one coaching as well. Tell us a little bit about the work that you do now with women in particular, and with people in general, and what you're planning on doing in the near future.
So I currently and here's part of that whole idea we were talking about earlier was like moving towards creating something and allowing that to evolve. And that's where I'm so early in, building my business. And I initially was like, okay, I want to help women, because it seemed like lots of women were coming my way. And it turns out like currently half my clients are men. So, I want to help all people, not just women. And I want to help teach people, just how to find joy in food, and how to eat again so that they can thrive. And there's no one way, right, for for everyone, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't have like, here's your meal plan and here's the thing in the box. It's more a combination through, self-discovery and lifestyle and what's going to work for you. What do you enjoy? And how do we build on becoming like 1% better every day, right? And by changing behaviors. And so I currently have a 12-week program where it's completely individualized for that person. So, I take an intake form, and the first phase of the program is really like awareness, like where are they at, what are they eating? I have them tracking their foods and their macros and understanding, okay, like this is where I'm at. This is where my metabolism is at. And then working towards, are there any health issues that we need to address? Because the body is not going to build muscle or release fat if it's unhealthy. And a lot of that comes from, gut health, right? And, whether it was antibiotics that they took or, just the years and years of, I would say, like abusive food eating that they've had, right? That have just torn their system apart.
Guilty.
So it's figuring that out in that first phase and that awareness, and then, implementing a protocol to support the healing or the health, the healthy health that's required. What I find is a lot of my clients end up, they're not eating enough food.
Mm.
So I meet with my clients weekly, and we work towards setting like real smart goals to execute on that week. And it's incredible. I think probably one of the most incredible things was last week I had a meeting with a client, and she was like, so she's down, it's been 4 weeks, she's down 8 pounds, and she's eating carbs. So she was eating a keto type lifestyle, and she was miserable, and she was always obsessing about food and what is the food that she's got to eat. And then she would, then she'd get to this place where she would binge. And she, she's in her 50s. So, this is a problem, right? Like she's got a young child, and she needs to be energetic, and her hormones are all wacky. And so over these she's not having any hormonal issues. We managed to create, just by having her eat a balanced diet and teaching her what that looks like again, because she almost like, I don't know what I'm supposed to eat, and she said to me, she's like, I don't obsess about food anymore, and I feel great. And there's nothing more nothing that makes me more happy than to see someone like make these changes in their life and like find their health. Like it's so rewarding. And it feels like it feels easy, because I've been studying this stuff, and I've been such a nerd about learning about all this stuff over the last, since 2015, really. I really got serious about, learning and consuming every book and everything, just to continue my education with health and wellness. And I feel so honored to be able to help people and see them grow. So anyways, in a long story
That's
short,
exciting. That's exciting.
it's a program that is going to ideally, so it's about rebooting their metabolism, because our body, some people will say, oh, my metabolism's broken. Well, your metabolism's never broken. Your metabolism adapts, and it's doing what it's supposed to do. So if you eat very little food, your body just adapts and it burns at a lower pace, right? It just burns less. And so what happens is, if it's burning at this low amount of food intake, and then you go on vacation and you eat more food than normal, well, you gain weight because your body's burning at a certain energy expenditure, right? And so it's I have to work with people in their minds, because I'm trying to change the paradigm. Okay, I want you to eat more. And they're like, what? Eat more? I need to eat less. You eat less to lose weight. And that's not true. It's about eating, eating to thrive up your metabolism so that you can live life and enjoy things. And, you can go on a vacation and you can enjoy the food truck, or you can have maybe a glass of wine on the weekend, or, creating that balance in your life but you have to put effort daily in the energy that you're putting into your body. So building up that metabolism is a big philosophy that I have. And the second way you're going to do that is through building muscle in your body. And so there's two ways really to build muscle in your body. One is going to be resistance training, like lifting weights, and it doesn't have to be weights. It could be body weight. It could, everyone's at a different place. So working towards resistance training, and then eating protein and eating it in a specific way and in a specific amount. So I teach people what that looks like to change their body composition. So if you are more muscular and you're holding on to that muscle through life, I like to say muscle is the organ of longevity, right? And most people, as they age, right, year after year, they stop lifting weights, they eat less protein. They're literally doing the two things that deteriorate their body. And year over year, they lose muscle. They become less mobile, right?
In
and then what
conjunction
happens
with aging too. Yeah.
Yeah,
And the
and they're
hormones and the
aging.
chemistry is changing. And yeah.
And so then what happens? They get ill, right? They get they're frail. They go into the shower, they slip, they break a hip. Hip's broken, go to the hospital. Now they're deteriorating even more in muscle mass. They get pneumonia, and then they die.
That happens
right? It's
so often.
It is the method that people die when they're old. It's so common. And if they had addressed their muscle from the beginning and never fell in the shower, they would have never gotten to that place, right? And so that's why I believe movement is so important. Building, and really having a concentrated effort on building muscle, because really your muscle tissue, it doesn't ever just stay there, right? Like fat tissue, it is it'll be there. There's not a lot going on. You'll hold on to your fat tissue. But muscle is either growing or dying. It's either, you're either in an anabolic state or a catabolic state. There's no okay, your muscle's just going to stay there, right? So you want to be in that growth phase always, doing activities to help grow, eating the foods to help grow.
And eating the quality and the quantity and the consistent foods, as well as rest and relaxation. We got to recuperate. That's the biggest part of growth. And that rest is a great point to bring up as well.
It's a huge point. And that's the other thing is people think, oh, I need to eat less calories. I need to go do a bunch of cardio, and I do this 7 days a week. And no, right? I've seen people, pull back their training to two times a week, and then just movement every day to where it's a walking, hiking, low stress type of movement.
Yoga, stretching.
And then, stretching, yoga, and boom, the weight just falls off.
I'll tell you what, man, I've adhered to these things that you're teaching over the last few years. And I just turned 50 and I am in phenomenal shape as compared to all throughout my 30s and half of my 40s. I was in horrible shape. Mindset, spirit set, heart set, body, finances, everything was a wreck. And through doing the things and learning about the things that you're teaching, man, it's just a phenomenal place to be in. And it's never too late to begin again and to start over and to start making health better. Even if you're super sick right now, I know for a fact that you've got ways to help people heal from the inside out and to really create a phenomenal life. And 90 days, a 12-week program, that's absolutely enough time to rehabituate certain practices and to begin that creation. So I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah, that's awesome. I actually have a client, he's 67. And so, working with him is a little bit different. uh, however, the last meeting we had, he came and he was just like, I feel so great. Like, and all we had addressed was, the previous week he was complaining about energy,
Mm.
and his significant other was telling, was meal prepping for him, but it wasn't enough food. And so, had spoke with her, and I said, okay, you need to add this and add this, and like it needs to be this amount because you're not feeding him enough. And she, in her mind, she was thinking, oh, less food, and he'll lose weight. And I'm like, no, 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 no. And, it's the other way around. We got to get that energy expenditure up. And so it was so cool to have him come and be like, I'm just ready to take on the world. And he had all this energy, and like the difference a week makes, just by getting the nutrition that you need, that your body is, desperately needing.
The wonderful, interesting thing about you and Jason both, I mean, you guys sought out the knowledge. You've done the hard work. You've done the push-ups, and you've learned all these things. You actually hired a coach to learn from. And personally, if I were to hire a coach, I would want to know that it's by someone who's done the work, who's hired a coach themselves, who has practiced what they preached for years. And you guys have. And that's why I was so excited to get you on the show and share what you're doing, because there are so many people out there right now, especially after the pandemic. We've all rehabituated certain practices that are less optimal. We're now getting food delivered to the home 2-3 times a day. Sometimes we're eating garbage in, garbage out. We can only produce and create at the level which we vibrate internally. And that's all affected directly with nutrition. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like the idea that aging gracefully begins when we're younger, but it's never too late to begin again. If you could go back in time and you knew what you know now, what age would you want to go back to and begin again? And what would you do differently in your life?
Oh, that's a good question. Wow. Well, I'll take it. What's interesting is, and I was talking to someone earlier this week about this, because I was raised in, my mom owned a restaurant. My mom and dad both grew up on farms in a small village in southern Italy. And they grew up with real food. Nothing was ever purchased. Everything was made from scratch. My mom made everything from scratch. The bread, the pasta, the vegetables in the garden would be, they would go to farmers to purchase. My dad would go butcher, buy a lamb and butcher the lamb, and my mom would go to the farmer to buy the cow, and everything was created. And growing up that way was so amazing to be able to experience that. If you put aside a cow in front of me, I could butcher it, because I've done that with my mom so many times at the restaurant.
Good to know. If
you need me to, peel the feathers off a chicken and do all that, I could do that. I could, make you some killer pasta or sourdough bread, whatever that is. And I learned all these skills, and it's interesting because, when we ate at the kitchen table, there was always vegetables and salad. There was always a meat, and there was always some sort of starch, right? There was potatoes or risotto or pasta, bread or whatever that was. And there was always all that available. We never sat at the table that only had pasta, never. I can't, and my dad would, he would go crazy. He would always, be so upset if my mom didn't make meat at the table. And so, and he's 82 now, and he's still thriving and shoveling the snow. He's in Canada, or mowing lawns, or doing, he's very active, and he's lean and fit, and you look at him, and I always remember him being so strong and muscular, because I used to, he always was active and ate well. So here's this amazing upbringing I had with this food, and my mom was always teaching me how to prepare it, or where it comes from, what is good for you. You got to eat these beets. These are so good for you. My dad would talk about dandelions, greens, and how they he would always say, they clean your blood, you know. So all of these amazing things I learned. And then I went through this whole journey of, I remember going paleo, and I was like, okay, I want to lose weight. I, go paleo, right? And I actually started a recipe website. It's called paleoappetite.com. It's still out there. I haven't posted there. I'm going to transfer all my recipes, but there's about 120 recipes I created, and I became obsessed with creating paleo recipes, right? And so I cut out, grains and dairy and bread, pasta, all that stuff. And I remember coming home every Sunday. My mom would make a Sunday lunch for everyone to come, and in Italian culture, it always involves some sort of homemade pasta on Sunday lunch. And I remember telling her, Mama, I'm not eating pasta. She's like, what do you mean? Like, you're not eating pasta? Like, it was like hard for her to comprehend. Mm-hmm. And I did this for years. And then I did the keto thing, and and then I did, I did all these different cleanses that, all these crazy fad diets. And now, after everything I've learned, here I am, and I'm eating a balance of the same things I ate when I grew up, right? It's like I did this full circle. Like, if I would go back, I would want to just continue to eat the way I did when I was young. Like why go through all the turmoil that I did and cut out things and demonize foods? And, it was more about, for me, it's about portion control and balance, and sitting at a table and enjoying a meal with another person or with the family, and paying attention and not being distracted, not being on my phone or not eating while I'm driving. And it's about, honoring the food and preparing whole, clean foods, and having a balance of everything. And every now and then having some cheesecake and having some cake or having some ice cream or whatever that is. And, but it's, it's not the whole container of ice cream, but it's just, one serving of ice cream. Right. And that's how I was raised. So, I would just, if I were to change anything, I would just have continued to eat that balance that I was raised with,
Nice. That's a brilliant answer for that question. So the consistency, the content, the quality of everything that you grew up with is what you would have kept. I know that for me, I used to look at the scale every day. I'd weigh myself, especially if I was starting a new nutrition plan or working out. And I later came across an image, which, I mean, it's easily, you can go to Google and just Google 5 pounds of fat versus 5 pounds of muscle, and it brings up an image of 5 pounds of fat next to a very small 5 pounds of muscle. Now, muscle weighs way more than fat. So a lot of women in particular, but men also, I mean, we all will hop on the scale and freak out when we start gaining weight, when we first start working out. And really, it's our metabolism, our chemistry, everything's working along with what we're doing on a daily basis. And as we're losing inches, we're gaining weight. And people freak out about that.
Yeah.
But the beauty about that is we can remember on a daily basis, oh, I'm up leveling the quality of the content of this human body right now. I don't need to worry about the weight. What I need to worry about is my energy levels, how I feel, the consistency of my practices. And do you ever suggest to people that they just stay away from the scale, or what do you do as far as like actual weight of a body?
So I look at weight, the scale is just one point of measurement. It's just a piece of data. And I help my clients remove the judgment around that, because a lot of people have struggle, mentally with that. But what I like to say is, it's one point of data, and you're better off tracking more points of data, right? So it might be a progress photo, it might be a measuring tape, or like you're talking about the biofeedback, like how are you feeling? It might be a pair of jeans, right? Like that the jeans that you want to fit into. How you're feeling, all of that stuff's so important. And when it comes to weight, your weight can adjust, fluctuate within about 2% of your body weight. And if you weigh 200 pounds, 2% that's a lot. That's a lot of weight. I mean, you can fluctuate, 5-6 pounds, but it doesn't mean that it's fat tissue, right? It's mostly water, right? And depending on what you're eating, you're gonna hold on to weight. If you go work out and have a hard workout, your body creates some inflammation, which is normal, a normal adaptation, and you're holding on to weight, so you'll weigh more, right? So I teach my clients, in a woman that week before their period and their cycle, they're gonna retain water, they're gonna gain more, right? I can gain up to 6 pounds just before, that week before I get my period. So there's so many different factors, but it's like having the education and the knowledge, the understanding of, okay, that this is what it means.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather, if someone is going to use the weight as a method of tracking your results, then I would rather use a week average. And you have to weigh yourself at the same time of day using the same scale. You have to keep things consistent. And so if you do that through the course of the week, and you're going to see you're either up or down by whatever that is, and then the next week, and you can see the trend, because it's the trend that we're looking for. I think that these methods of tracking are important if your goal is to create like a change in your body composition, if that's your goal, right? So understanding what your goal is probably the first step, right? Because it's someone that has a goal of just being healthier. The scale may not be really, we don't need the scale. Like, we want to, how are you feeling? How is your energy? How is your digestion? All of these other things we're going to talk about. I'm not going to, if you have a health goal, I'm not going to say, well, what do you weigh in today? It's an irrelevant piece of information. So getting clear and having a full understanding of, what we're tracking here and why we're tracking it, and how to keep it, accurate.
So
versus
multiple data points are more useful than just hopping on a scale.
Yeah.
If you're going to use a scale, then do it consistently, same day of the week, same time of the week, before or after a meal, same scale. Consistency is key.
Consistency is key. And then you can see, because like if you weighed yourself on Monday morning, and then you weighed a certain amount, and then you weighed yourself on Friday in the afternoon, and you're probably going to weigh more because you have workouts throughout the week and you've been eating, and now it's later in the day. Then you play this mental game. You're like, oh my God, I gained 4 pounds this week. And and then you're like, throw the scale away. But meanwhile, you might have, if you weighed yourself Friday morning, you may have actually weighed 2 pounds less. You would have had a whole different dialogue with yourself than when you weighed yourself on Friday afternoon.
And that inner dialogue is so important. I know
huge.
I don't know about you, but I know millions of people like me are emotional eaters. We use food as an addictive behavior pattern to distract ourselves from the inner work that we need to do, from the healing that is necessary for us to expand and become something even more than we currently are. And it can become quite an addiction. I remember my late 20s, early 30s, I thought I knew so much about nutrition, only to find out through some injuries at 265 pounds of big, bulky muscle that I didn't know crap, and I had better learn some stuff. And it took 15 years of suffering and pain for me to finally get sick and tired of being sick and tired enough to do that, and to start learning and acquiring new skills and managing myself and my emotions and my inner world and my inner chemistry more optimally. It took a lot of suffering, and that was self-imposed suffering.
Right.
I tried to blame everything and everyone else, but when it came down to it, it was 100% my responsibility to only control what was going on with me, instead of trying to distract myself by controlling everything and everyone outside of me.
I have there a quote I had heard once before, and it was just suffering is optional.
Mhm.
You know, it
I
really is
agree with that.
optional.
I agree with
We
that.
impose it on ourselves. You know?
Pain is inevitable. That's just a part of life. That's life. We will have painful moments. But when we attach meanings and definitions to that pain and relive it in our minds over and over and over for days, months, years, we create an inner chemistry within ourselves, a chemical cocktail of hormones and chemicals. And this is the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza and many other scientists and doctors. They say a thought is electrical in nature, and it sends signals throughout the body to then release instantaneously up to like almost 2,000 different chemicals and hormones that relate and correspond directly with the thoughts that we think repetitiously. And then it creates in our body a feeling, which he teaches is magnetic in nature. And that has to do more with, you know, the woo-woo stuff of the law of attraction. Like we repel things that aren't similarly magnetized to our energy that we create, but we attract things that are similarly magnetized to our thinking and our feeling. And our thinking and our feeling is self-perpetuating. It gains momentum. And pretty soon we're either spiraling down or we're spiraling up. We're always either growing or not growing. We're always, you know, expanding or contracting. That's, you were talking about that earlier. And it's true with everything. And like, we don't just sit on the fence in comfort forever. Sooner or later, God, the universe, that divine source energy, whatever you want to call it, is going to kick your ass so that you will grow. And I've got this theory that, you know, that if we choose intentionally and purposefully to consistently up level and grow and optimize any way possible in any area of our lives, that it kind of lets go of the reins and lets us start taking control of our own inner harmony and peace.
Absolutely.
There's one thing I did want to bring up that is super important, and that is the difference between the acidic state and the alkaline state in which our bodies reside according to the food and drink that we intake. Acidity is created within our body at a pH level that can be measured, and it fosters an environment in which disease like cancer can thrive and expand and grow very quickly. Whereas if we ingest things that sort of kick us internally, our bodies into a more alkaline state, we're able to not only resist those illnesses, but they cannot exist in that alkaline state. And I've heard of a few practices of creating a more alkaline state. One was by Tony Robbins. Before you do anything in the morning, first thing, you know, after your little gratitude, meditation, exercise, whatever you do, before you ingest anything else, get a lemon, put it into the water and drink lemon water, and then wait for a while before you eat or drink anything else. And then another doctor said once a week, drink Alka-Seltzer. And I'd never heard of that before until a month ago. And we actually go to this doctor every month now for injections with the vitamins and minerals that we no longer really get from our foods the way that we used to. Have you heard of any other practices or foods to implement that would create a more alkaline state that are more healthy? I mean, obviously you've got Tasty Tip Tuesday, tons of recipes. Any other suggestions for people out there?
I would say, you know, getting a variety is huge. Eating, and that's why I'm an advocate for a balanced diet, having a balance and eating a lot of vegetables, right? So I have very high protein. Well, I wouldn't say very high protein, but I like to have at least 30% of my calories from protein. And then having a good amount and variety of fruits and vegetables is huge. And so many people, like I have, that have, again, when people do a keto diet, and I don't think that a keto diet is bad, it has a place and it can be used as a tool for whatever that might be. But what happens is, like, if you I always say, like, if you're going to eat a certain way, is this going to be the way you're going to eat for the rest of your life? Like, are you going to like commit to this forever?
Like, is it
Because at some
sustainable?
point, yeah, at some point you're gonna eat this keto thing and then you're gonna go back. And what happens is you create new behaviors in the way you're eating. And what I find is that so many people, they have such a hard time getting in fruit. I mean, fruit, there is not one scientific study that proves that fruit will make you fat. Like, it will not make you fat. It's got amazing fiber and, vitamins and minerals and just micronutrients that your body needs and thrives on. So eating eating a variety, right? When that's why there was, for a long time, there was a lot of different resources that would just talk about eat the rainbow, so you're going to get a variety if you're getting yellow and red and green and purple and all the different colors of vegetables and fruits. And there's actually a study that I could share with you if you're interested in it. They did like a test on subjects where they ate, would there be any benefit of them eating a variety of the fruits and vegetables? And I think it was like 30 different. So they compared people who had eaten a variety over the course of a week, at least 30 fruits and vegetables. So that would include everything.
Seems like a lot.
Right? And it seems like a lot, but if you include, like, so you got onions and garlic and parsley, and if you get that clamshell of baby greens, sometimes there's up to 14 different kinds in there. You can have peppers, and you might have, broccoli and asparagus. So you have, count your banana, apple. So count all of those, like, just do a self-test and see how many of those you eat over the course of a week. And they found that if you're at the 30, that was kind of like that threshold where they found the best health in people through blood markers.
Wow.
And so I would say that through fruits and vegetables, right, that would create great balance in your body. I do the lemon water in the morning, and I drink lemon water throughout the day. I like to, your water and the quality of the water you're drinking is super important. Getting in the proper electrolytes, especially living in Arizona, salt, magnesium, potassium, those are all, you can get different electrolytes to add to your water, but having a good quality water would probably be one of the biggest, right? Like, if you're eating or drinking a water that, is dead and chlorinated, and, what that's doing to your gut microbiome, right?
Where can the fiber find the best, highest quality water, you think, especially here in Arizona, but anywhere? What's the best thing to do?
I would say, like, having a good, clean, filtered water. I think a reverse osmosis type water is going to, a lot of people have that system installed in their home.
Or at a water and ice store,
clear out,
they've got that too.
like, clear out those impurities. Okay. But one of the healthiest things you could do to your water is just add some lime or lemon, maybe a little pinch of Himalayan sea salt, and you've got some great water there. You could purchase the pH water from the stores as well. But a lot of times it's, the water that, removes they remove the impurities, but it also removes some of the, minerals and stuff that are in water. So then you don't want that. You want to definitely hydrate your water back with those electrolytes that were maybe removed. So, well, that's what I would say like what you're doing with the lemon or a piece of lime, lime has lots of potassium. Actually, you're just putting it back into the water, you're making it like really great for you. So
adding
I'd say water and fruits
and
veg. Yeah, water, fruit, and veg. Taking care of your gut microbiome is massive. To a massive, huge. We're just at the beginning stages of the science around the gut. Mm-hmm. It's literally like just beginning. Like, we don't know. We just don't know what we don't know. But I'm telling you, I've like personally experienced, a gut that was disrupted, and it's not fun at all, and it takes time to repair that. But it takes, you know, you've got to feed it properly to get there. And so, like I said, you know, people, I was going down the road about the keto, like they're not feed, a lot of times they're just not feeding their gut everything that is going to help those microbes stay alive. And a lot of them die off completely. And once they die off completely, they're gone because they're not getting the food or the fiber for them to thrive, right? So then all of a sudden you wipe out those
What you
microbes,
need.
and you have to figure out, well, what am I missing, you know? I'm also a huge advocate of getting your blood work done, right? So I don't just say like, oh, go take all these vitamins and minerals. Well, do you actually, what do you need, right? Doing a hair test or doing a blood test and understanding what am I lacking in? And those are the items that I'm going to take, you know?
That interests me because I always get my blood tested like once a year, part of a physical, whatever. But there are so many new tests and markers that if we don't know anything about them or don't know to ask for them while we're getting our hair follicles or our blood tests done, but we never get the proper information that we really need to then make better adjustments and optimize even more. Is there like a list that you've ever come across or created of all the different tests and blood markers that people ought to be getting?
I would say, you know, if you're working with a naturopath or someone, you know, a holistic doctor, that they, you know, they would be definitely the person to ask. There's a company online that's called checkmybodyhealth.com. And it's very, for a small fee, I think I paid $38, and you send your hair sample in. The good thing about your hair sample is it's taking, like it's taking a different picture of what's going on in your health, and more of from a long-term standpoint, because by the time, you know, your hair grows, like it's what your body's producing. Sometimes when you get a blood sample, I mean, it's what's going on in your blood in that moment, right? So it could be, you know, depending, you know, you want to definitely probably be fasted. Most of those tests are going to be fasted because your blood can change pretty quickly based on what's going on. So I think that there's value to both tests, and getting, you know, qualified specialists. You could do the test online, but then you have all this information and it's like, oh, well, what do I do with that? The good thing about checkmybodyhealth.com is that they'll, you know, they test your food sensitivities, vitamins, minerals, gut health, digestion health, and it'll show you like where you're low on things, or where you're good. And you can maybe, you know, by process of elimination, like figure out if you have a health issue. But you know, if there's one vitamin though, I always ask people to take is vitamin D. And I prescribe about 5,000 I use a day. You know, you can never really overdose on it, but most people are not getting enough vitamin D, even living in Arizona in the sun. Because
We've
if you're
hide from
putting
the sun, right?
sunblock,
Oh no.
yeah,
Sunblock,
you're hiding
yeah.
from it. If you put sunblock on, like if 70% of your body isn't exposed for at least 30 minutes, and depending on your skin color, like, so the darker you are, the longer you need to be in the sun to produce that, then you're probably not, you know, producing naturally enough vitamin D. And if you're not eating a really good balanced diet with lots of, you know, high vitamin D type foods, then you probably are lacking. But you can get a test and see, right? And see where you're at. I mean, even with me supplementing with vitamin D, my vitamin D, there's a range, and my vitamin D was just at the bottom of the range. So I was within the range, but I wasn't high, even though I was taking, you know, I've been taking 5,000 IUs a day, plus I hike and I'm outside, and I you know, I'm pretty active outside. I don't lay out in the sun, but you know, I would say I'm in the sun quite often. So even, and I eat a ton of eggs and a ton of, you know, dairy products, and I eat all sorts of foods that have high vitamin D. So yeah, the other part is your gut health, right? So from the things that you are eating, are you actually digesting and absorbing?
As far as gut health, there are a few doctors that I've really dove into their work deeply because I didn't know much about it when I kept hearing gut health this, gut health that, people are having all these issues. A lot of doctors are now teaching that almost every single immunity disease, every cancer, every illness, inflammation especially, is caused by the breakdown in gut health. Because the stomach lining is only one cell layer thick. And if we're eating a diet that is acidic in nature and filled with carbs and sugars and processed foods, it seeps into our bloodstream really quickly. And we get an inflamed brain, an inflamed body. I know now when I eat something that was bad for me, I'll wake up the next day and can barely make a fist with my hands. The arthritis that I've been diagnosed with is massively painful. And I've actually taken to doing a few ice baths during the week, usually after a heavy workout. Through experimentation, I learned that if I do a heavy workout, the acids in my body will build up, and that next day it'll be so painful that I try not to vomit all day. And taking that ice bath, just fill up ice like 40 pounds in the bathtub after you fill up the bath halfway full, dip in that for 15 or 20 minutes. The next day I'm not even sore. It's unreal. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So inflammation is actually indication that there's something going on nutrition wise. And back in 1999, I was diagnosed with extreme anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, and all of these things they're now finding are literally caused by inflammation and a breakdown in the gut health. And if I can take a few moments, I'd like to share a personal story about that.
Yeah.
So when I thought I knew about nutrition, I was working out really hard. I was a big dude. I was 265, all muscle. And I ate at Wendy's every day. I had donuts every day. I had soda or Gatorade every day, not realizing the sugar content that I was consuming and the acidic pH that I was creating within my own body, right? And I did it for years before it finally caught up with me and just kicked my ass. And then hence the diagnosis of bipolar disorder and depression. And my brain was literally pushing against the skull. It was so inflamed and causing these symptoms. And that altered my lifestyle and the person that I was. In 2014, I was driving cab because I was in so much pain, I could barely move. And I would work on Monday for 12 hours, barely make it home, unable to do much, but just sit there and try and not vomit. Sometimes I'd cry from the pain. And for 2 days, it was horrible. And I'd finally build up enough energy and wherewithal to get back to work on Thursday, and this went on for a few months. Like 2-3 times a week I was able to work. And luckily in that industry, when it was still alive here in Arizona, they said, look, you work once every 30 days, man, we'll keep you on. And other than that, they didn't care. It was perfect for what I needed at that moment in my life, right? So a few months into driving cab, I get this guy from back east. He's got a thick accent from Massachusetts, and he was an over-opinionated know-it-all and just the stereotypical, what we in Arizona like judge the Easterners to be like, right? Which I no longer do. But this guy in the back of my cab goes, man, you look like you're in pain, dude. And I'm like, I really am. And he goes, well, I see you're drinking a thirst buster. Good job, dummy. And I'm like, dude, we don't even know each other.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's actually Gatorade. He goes, well, that's worse. What are you thinking? You're killing yourself slowly. And I'm like, what is he talking about? And I got kind of pissed. I was a little offended. Like he's calling me stupid and all this, right? He's in my face. And he's got these very strong opinions. And I didn't know where he was from or anything about him. He just gets in the car and starts criticizing me. And at that time, I was super closed down to anything new, right? He said, look, go home and watch the documentary Fed Up. It's got a blue and a red M&M says F you. And it's basically an F you to the government because of what they've been doing to our food since the 70s. And I'm like, oh, great. We got a cuckoo in the cab, So eventually I kick him out of the cab. because I was so incensed. And to this day, I regret it. I wish I knew who he was so I could thank him.
Mm-hmm.
A month
Wow.
later, after I finally got over the sensitivity issue that I was having, I came across Fed Up and I watched it, and it changed my life forever. It taught me
Wow.
about sugars, nutrition, more than I'd ever learned before. For the next year and a half, I then got off of all the mood stabilizers and antidepressants, started nutritional supplements and vitamins. One's called Q96 and Power Plus, which I've taken every day since then. And the few times that I've not taken it for a week or two at a time, those old symptoms start to come back and I feel it.
Wow.
So something in there is helping, and it's all natural. It's nutrition through minerals and supplementation. And this product was created from a doctor in Canada that lost his wife and daughter to suicide. He said, I want to help people so that they don't go through what my own family did. And he created this. And I don't know why, but it really works well for me and for millions of others that are taking it. The food supply has changed in the last 100 years, for sure. Natural foods aren't so natural anymore.
Right.
And I literally, in 6 months after beginning a whole new diet, and it was very simplistic, I basically cut out all sugars and carbs, or what I thought they were, because I still ate like rice and broccoli and different things.
Right.
But I'd wake up every morning, have oatmeal with blueberries and banana. I no longer drink milk or a little almond milk or water in it. And that was breakfast. And I didn't eat again until lunch. And it was usually just chicken or a sandwich, no bread nor tortillas. And then at night, I had this bodybuilder friend that told me, look, man, eat your broccoli first. It gets caught in your body and traps the nutrition so that your body absorbs even more nutrition behind it before going through the whole digestive system. And I'm like, that kind of makes sense. So I tried it out. Within 6 months, I went from 235 to 190.
Wow.
And I'd never felt better. I was like, oh my God, I'm saved. Somehow
Yeah.
all these people came to my life at the right moment and empowered me with the information that was necessary for me to go off all those meds to really change my lifestyle.
Yeah.
And within a year and a half, I get a little emotional, sorry, but man, my whole life changed from then on. And it's just been gaining momentum in the right direction now, rather than spiraling downward. And I'm so grateful for all these people that have taught me so much, especially my wife, who is now an incredible cook. And she knows a lot more than I do about nutrition, but her main thing now is love. She infuses love into everything she fixes. That's her secret ingredient. She'll tell you that.
That's awesome.
So vibrational frequencies, I mean, everything is energy, right? And the spoken word, even thinking, kind of emits and transmit outward from us a vibrational frequency that affects everything within its realm, right? I remember a week or two ago, my wife had made some chocolate dipped strawberries. And I walk in there. I can be a fairly critical, closed-minded person sometimes. And I'm like, oh, and our granddaughter was eating one. And I was like, oh, look, Murph, you have some poison. And immediately my wife was like, hey. And I'm like, oh, crap, she's right. And I reframed it to, hey, Murph, you've got some food that grandma put love into that's going to help you. And she goes, that's better. And we moved on with the day. And I'm like, oh, got checked. And I'm grateful because now I'm trying to practice checking every thought and every word I have about what I'm about to consume, right? Do you guys ever pray or bless the food or anything like that?
Yeah, this is really important when you talk about being in that acidic type of body. Stress can create that, right? And your thoughts and, like you said, your energy. So I think it's so important. And this sneeze just a minute. Oh. The pollen here is yeah. So the being in a state of like peace and ease when you eat your food is huge, right? just taking that time and allowing your body to understand what it is you're doing. So a lot of times you're in a high stress state, and then you go to eat and you just eat fast because you're just like, I gotta eat. Well, what that does is like it doesn't even give your body the time, like your mind, to tell your gut to say, hey, we're eating now. I better like turn on my digestive system and get those digestive enzymes juicing up so that I can like digest that food. And so I think it's super important to like take that moment to create in that space to say, okay, like I'm about to eat, right? And I think that prayer is so wonderful when people sit at the table and bless the food and take that moment to say, like, thank you, and now I'm about to eat. And that it almost like mentally prepares you for, okay, now like it's time to get my digestion going. And when you eat and you take your time while you eat, this could be one of the most powerful things you could do. And it's been proven to even to help with weight loss is just, if you don't change anything about your diet, but you just stop, like put your fork down in between each bite and you eat slowly, you chew your food and allow your body to say, okay, like I'm going to digest, and you're going to feel more satiated. Your body's going to be able to process that food better. You don't have all this stress hormones in your body, running through, and, you're in a fight or flight type of situation. You're in a, rest and digest type of situation. Right. So being in that mind frame, having that time, having that space, I think is a practice that you could put into your life and completely change how you feel, how your food is digested, the acidity in your body, all those things.
I really love that.
And I think a lot of people don't do that anymore. Like you said, you're eating on the fly, you're going through a drive-through, you're you're not eating for a long time, and then you're so hungry that you have to just like wolf it down, and you've got all this food and mass in your gut, and your gut's like, what's going on here? And then you have digestive issues. So, and then when you have digestive issues, you don't feel well, it creates inflammation, you're not absorbing the food that the nutrients, and it's just like a vicious cycle. So yeah, I would absolutely agree with you on that idea.
So courtesy of Dr. Joe Dispenza, I mean, he put this in some of his work, but he's done so much research that is so helpful that speaks to this. I mean, the rest and digest is so uncommon nowadays, especially after this whole COVID crisis, whatever you want to call it, like the news, the fear-based thinking that has been programmed into us constantly, all the stress, the hormones and the chemistry that we create instantaneously through thinking about these things is, from what he teaches, it's injected into our bloodstream instantaneously with a thought. And this chemical cocktail within 2 pumps of the heart has now reached every part of our body. That's the beauty of the pressurized heart and blood vessel system. We're talking 80,000 to 100,000 miles of blood vessels and veins that within 2 pumps of the heart, this chemical cocktail has now reached. So when we watch the news, when we're stressed out by somebody at work, when we're bullied, when we're feeling a certain way that we can sort of critique as negative or not optimal, that really affects the chemistry of what we're ingesting and interacts with it in a different way than if we're in a rest and digest state. So along the lines with what you just said, I mean, we are in control, hopefully. And if we're not currently, we can be in control 100% of what's going on internally. Peter Crone is another great coach that I love to follow and learn from. And one of his best statements I've come across so far is, in this world of chaos and turmoil, the most successful thing that we can do as humans these days is to remain in a state of peace and calmness and contentment amidst all of everything going on outside of us. Only thing we can control is our inner world. And that absolutely includes and involves everything we ingest. Nutrition is key to this human experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I coach with my clients, like if you're in a stressed state, like let's say you get into an argument with a loved one and you have that anxiety or you're stressed out about something at work, is like manage that stress before you eat. You're better off not just having that dinner if you're emotionally you're off, is address that emotion, address that stress first. And it doesn't need to take, it may not be a long thing, but it may be a short meditation, a short just walk outside, something to get your body back into ease, so that then sit down and eat, because that could be one of the most powerful things you can do, just to bring that in. And the whole bless the food thing is, I think a lot of people will demonize foods and think I'm going to eat this and get fat, or this is bad, or this is good, or you eat the thing, and like really working on the mindset around removing all of those judgments. And it's not good or bad, it just is what it is. And there are some things that maybe have more nutrition than other things. And but if you're going to choose to eat something, eat it and enjoy it and connect with it, and then move on. Right. Make that empowering choice to, I'm choosing to eat this thing, versus I can't eat that thing because it's this bad thing. It's more about and then when you restrict yourself for so long, you're going to have more of a tendency to, because you're feeling that restriction, going and like binging on it later on. You're like, I haven't been able to have this thing for so many days, and now you're feeling a little weak emotionally, and you go buy that bag of Dorito or whatever the thing is, and then you just pound the whole family size bag.
That is so funny.
And and that's because you've but what if you, hey, like, okay, it's Monday, and if you can create that that self-control and that love and that balance, where you can say, you know what, I'm just going to have like 4 or 5 of these Dorito chips, which is, I think, very difficult to do, because they literally create that food so that you don't stop eating it. But whatever that item might be, is you either include it in some way, right, so that you don't, not creating this deprivation or this this whole mindset of restriction, or you find something that you enjoy that replaces that item, right? So like I had a client, and I said, okay, she would always have a glass of wine before going to bed. Okay, well, we were working on balancing her hormones, and so alcohol can be really difficult, and especially having alcohol before going to bed, when it comes to balance, creating that balance. I said, well, how about we go from not having wine every night and to having wine, there's only 2 nights of the week, and you pick whatever those 2 nights are, but the other 5 nights you have something else. And so it turned out she chose that it was going to be sleepy time tea, and she used to drink the sleepy time tea all the time. And so now she created this new ritual where she sat down and she had her tea, and she was really enjoying that thing. So it wasn't like she didn't create restriction, she just created this new thing that she was enjoying. She was really successed in the 12 weeks that we worked together. She ended up dropping 30 pounds, which was amazing.
That's awesome.
And she had, now, like everyone, that's not a common thing, the 30 pounds, unless you have, you have a lot of weight to lose, right? Then you'll lose more than someone that's maybe leaner and only has a few pounds to lose. Obviously they're not going to lose 30 pounds, but so putting that in context a little bit. But she, she still drank wine through those 8 weeks, probably 2 times, sometimes 3 times. She just started walking, she started moving, she started adding more protein. She just started to implement new things in her life.
So new thinking,
and
new
create that
beliefs,
awareness.
new information.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot to that. And
Sure.
I kind of started going off topic there, but
No, that's not at all.
Yeah.
No, when we know better, we can do better. And that's the beauty of having a coach like you. I really believe that. Aramaic, I guess, from what I've heard, invented a word called abracadabra, magic, right? It's a spell casting sort of a word. And the direct translation is basically, as I speak, so it is. Hebrew translates abracadabra into I will create as I speak. So our beliefs, our mindset, our perspectives literally infuse all that we do, all that we ingest with a certain level of vibrational frequency. Because we're thinking to the food as we consume it. We're thinking to that drink, oh, this is poison. I know better, but here I go anyway. And then it does a certain thing, and it all interacts, on levels that we don't even comprehend yet.
Yeah.
I wanted to have in the background playing this music. Basically, it's 528 hertz music that can be found on YouTube or, on the radio, whatever. And you can find these different frequencies to listen to as you sleep or as you vibe during the day, as you work, as you walk. And 528 in particular has been researched and known to repair DNA on a cellular level. And so I figured, what better guest to have on and play this in the background with?
Oh, that's amazing.
So,
I actually have an app, a meditation app, and you can pick your different sounds. And there's a particular one I try to pick a different sound, but there's one that I think it's called Astrio on the app. Anyways, I'm just attracted to that, and I just feel the best after my meditation with that music. It really helps.
The results don't lie. Whatever works, that's what we need to keep doing. And when it stops working, if it does, then hey, adapt, alter it, upgrade it, like you guys have done so well over the years together.
Yeah.
Now, the importance of empowering mantras. On your Facebook description, you've got a post pinned to the top of the page. It's an intro all about you and what you do. And here's a few things that I caught from that is little quotes or mantras that you like. Honor the work, remember your future, do the hard thing, crush mediocrity, create mastery, and get in one more rep. What's that all about?
Yeah, so these are just sort of mindset cues or reminders when I'm in the moment, right? And I'm, when that little devil is speaking to me to do something, or when I feel like it's really hard, or, it's like this reminder, to depending on the situation, I might pull from that. And really thinking about, there's a new one I've come across, and it's, I had posted this week, actually, the quote at the top, and it was along the lines of my favorite quote, which is, do something your future self will thank you for. And it's like, don't allow what you want now to get in the way of what you want most. So when you are clear on your goals, on what you want most, on where you want to go, right? And you're in the moment and you have this temptation, or, the alarm goes off and you want to stay in bed instead of go to the gym, or you want to, I think, okay, is this the moment, right now, what do I want more? Do I want my future self? Do I want what I want most? This is the practice, the habit, the thing that I must continue to do with consistency to get to where I want to go? Or do I just want this comfort in the moment right now and stay in bed? You know, now some days I'll wake up and I'm sore and I'm stressed out, and I definitely want to listen to my body. So I'm not saying like, you know, you're not always going to be perfect and always be hitting those things,
Sure.
but you are mostly going to. And in the moment, really assessing, is this like I'm really stressed out and I'm sore and I'm hurting and I need to listen to myself and take time to do something to heal? Or am I just being a big baby and want to stay in bed? And is this like this temporary, you know, the devil talking to me saying, oh, just stay in bed, it's cozy here, it's warm here? Or, you know, or am I going to get up and go do what it is that I said I was going to go do in the morning? So I find that having these little mantras just can be like tools to help you, you know, get through when you're having those doubts, or when you're having those moments of weakness, or you're having, you know, not losing sight of, you know, what it is that I say that I want to create, and how am I going to get through those places of, you know, when I get up against my box and it's, you know, it's hard, I want to expand my box, I get to the wall, and what do I do here, you know? So that's a little bit about that, you know. Honor the work is really one that's become a real mantra throughout our brand, Hardwodder, Hardwodder One, and you know, it's the loving the process and the journey, and you know, going through it and choosing, empowering yourself and choosing to do the work, and finding the joy in it, right? I mean, going to the gym, I mean, I've been going to the gym all my life for a long time, and it sucks. I'm not going to say like it hurts sometimes, and sometimes you don't want to do it, and you know, that never goes away. But I've found some joy in it, and I want to honor that, you know, like doing that work that I do when I do go to the gym. You know, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to, you know, enjoy find that joy for me. And it's different for everyone, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
But honoring what it takes, you know, and choosing, you know, like I get to do these things, not I have to do this thing, you know.
Huge shift in perspective that is so empowering. So
Mm-hmm.
you use these mantras then literally to remain consciously aware enough to listen to your inner intuition, the inner voice of wisdom that tells you what you need in that moment continuously. And I'm sure you get better and better at listening to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don Miguel Ruiz wrote a book called The Four Agreements. And the fourth agreement is always do your best. Your best is going to change from moment to moment. It will be different when you are healthy as opposed to sick. Under any circumstance, simply do your best and you will avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, and regret.
Mm-hmm. I love that book. And I love that.
That's one I have to I get to revisit daily. I set alarms throughout the day to go off as reminders of what I want to expand into more and more progressively. And like you said, 1% increase is all you need every day, you know, to up level. And in 20 years, if you're doing that consistently and you habituate that as a practice, like 1% better in your finances, 1% better in your conscious awareness, meditative practices, nutrition levels and habits, and your perspectives, every aspect of life, we can up level and upgrade it intentionally, just 1%. And then in 20 years, be living the life of everybody's dream.
Yeah.
And I look at you guys and I'm like, just from 2009 till now, look how far you've come. Look what you're doing. And I can't wait to see what happens in another 10 and 20, 50 years from now. I've just really enjoyed watching you guys.
Yeah, it's been great. And I would just elaborate on that 1%. You know, that's another mantra that, you know, don't undervalue the power of making a small change, right? Because really that's where that's where the gold is, you know. It's that small little behavior change, that small little practice you put in place. And over time, consistency of doing that is what gets you ultimately to where you want to go, you know. And it's human nature to want things fast and want things to change really quickly. And that's one of the expectations I really have to make clear with my clients, is that you have to have a realistic, time frame and goal ahead of you. Because when you set, I want to change my body and I want to achieve this thing, and you're doing actions, but it's not really realistic and you're not getting there, you're going to give up on that thing, right? Because you're not making progress. You're not seeing that change, and you're like, oh, I want to have the six pack. I'm like, well, have you ever had a six pack in your entire life? No. Okay, well, it's possible, but do you understand what's required to get there? Do you truly understand? Because it's not an easy thing to have. And a lot of times, you go on in this world, especially with social media and Instagram. And I mean, there's all these crazy camera filters now, like you have no idea what's real or not. And so people create this expectation of this, like your body looking a certain way and you're following someone. But like, meanwhile, it's not even their body. It's like fake because it's like a filter. Like, how do you know, right? Or the other thing is you see someone, people will post pictures of their success in their body. Let's say they prepped for a bodybuilding competition and now they're like, they're looking amazing. And there's a lot of work that goes behind that. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of sweat, a lot of tears, a lot of, and a lot of times some people will, but not everybody will post the journey and the pain and the suffering and the 5 a.m.s and the boiled chicken and the broccoli and the, and the lack of food and the hunger they're feeling and the things that they went through for, the years that they took to get there. They're posting their end result. And then you're on the outside seeing the end result and you're like, oh, like, I want to create that.
Yeah.
Well,
we all
maybe
get
if
stuck
you
in
watch
that comparison game, right?
Yeah, but maybe if you watch them on their journey and the pain and the suffering, the sacrifice and the things they had to give up to get there, you'd be like, I don't think I want that actually. Like everyone's different. But really making this, okay, here's the reality of what it's going to require, what's, what it's going to take and how much time it's going to take to get there. And we can all get to whatever it is our goals are, right? Because it's your goals and but really getting clear and having a good understanding of what it's going to take so that you can stay on course. So that when it really sucks and you don't want to do that thing that you said you want, you do it anyway, because you know what? You said, like, you see that vision of what you want to create. So.
Another thing that's helped me to really accomplish a lot of goals, I think you guys use this as well, but having that big reason why. For me, it was my sons. Now it's grandbabies, people I love, people I used to love a lot more than I knew how to love myself. They kept me going. Mm-hmm. And now that I've learned to accept and love myself at my best, I'm able to do it for me. And everything I do for me is, of course, for everyone around me, and that's a great place to be. Mm-hmm. One thing I've learned is expectations are premeditated resentments. Expectations can be a filter through which we judge everything. And if I have an expectation of myself or another or something, and the expectation isn't met, I'm basically setting myself up for a period of resentment. Mm-hmm. And that is disempowering, it's de-energizing, and certainly not helpful. But when we expect something of ourselves and can accept ourselves as doing our best, like Don Miguel Ruiz teaches in his book, The Four Agreements, mm-hmm. simply know that, hey, I am doing my very best and I'm proud of myself. Even if I didn't meet all my goals for the day, I know that tomorrow's another day. I can begin again anytime and I can do better tomorrow.
Yeah.
These things keep me going instead of becoming overwhelmed and just falling to pieces, and and then falling off that nutrition wagon and then rolling off a cliff and down into the river and over a waterfall. And, it's like eating a whole pack of Oreos or a dozen donuts. I've done that and I could still do it easily. Love to do it, miss doing it, but I no longer see the value in it because it's not where I'm heading.
Yeah, absolutely. It's having that growth mindset, being okay with failing and, knowing that, oh, I get to fail. I get to do this thing and then, pick up and do it again tomorrow. And
you get better at it. Yeah.
You get better at it. And that's just it. And, that last mantra I have, do one more, get in one more rep is, a gym analogy, when you got, a set of 10 reps. And when I'm at 8, it's supposed to be 10 and I'm at 8 and it's like, oh my God, I'm like, this is so heavy. Okay, I'm going to get 9 in at least, right? Like getting in one more rep might not always be, oh, there's 10 reps in the sequence. And, instead of stopping at 8, I'm going to go at 9. I'm about to fail. So I'm going to go 9. Right. Or if I'm at 10 and it feels good and I'm like, okay, I can just do one more, get one more in. And when you compound interest that over time, that's huge over time, and really playing the long.
Oh, it just broke up right as you were saying, playing the long game. And that, what were you saying?
I said it's huge in creating that long sustainable change, right?
Okay. That's the 1% you're talking about.
That's the mentality of thinking of what it is that you want to create, continuing to evolve that and continue to work towards that long-term, that long-term goal, so that you're creating a lifestyle, you're creating that future self versus, doing, thinking just short term and not looking at things from, bird's eye view and building upon that. You want to, I always say, like, what is that long-term vision you have for yourself? One of the things I have my clients do is create, a wellness statement, like you have a vision statement. Well, what do you want to create for yourself in your life, in wellness, in your health? And so that, like you were talking about, like, what is that purpose, or what is that thing that keeps you going? Why are you doing that? Why, right? And getting really clear on that is huge when it comes to your health and your wellness. I want to have freedom and joy around food. I want to have balance. I want to create, I want to love, and I don't want to have that restriction, right? Like, so whatever it is, it's different for everyone. I want to have the energy. I want to have the mobility. I want to be, 100 years old and, competing in a sprinting competition, or whatever that thing is, but create that vision and hold that vision in the forefront of your mind. Put it on the front of your journal, make it your screensaver on your phone or your laptop or whatever that is. And use that as that North Star, that guiding point for your life when it comes to, what it is you want to create.
I love that. It's 2 hours have passed and it just flew by.
Oh my goodness.
Can you believe that? I'm like, no, I'm not done yet. But
yeah,
I do have a previous commitment with my wife. We're going to go get those, the monthly nutrient vitamin injections from this doctor, right? It's a holistic doctor that shows up at a herb store in Mesa once a month. And she was telling us last time we were there that the entire 2 years that she was treating people and they were getting these monthly injections of these nutrients, the vitamins, the minerals, the magnesium, all these things, she had only one person that tested positive for COVID. And I'm like, that's interesting. Good to know.
Wow.
It was a man in his 90s who was already fairly ill, but he lived through it. He survived it, no problem.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, so there are things out there that help. There's another thing I came across, I've been doing for a few years, called hape or rape. It's from the Amazon, and it's a powder that they compile and bless, and they manufacture, they make this, for a spiritual enhancement tool or a meditative tool. And they use it down there before, during, and after like ayahuasca ceremonies and all these kinds of things. And there's a guy, Carlos Duran, that I'm going to have on the podcast here in the next few months, that is out of California. He gets it from them and then distributes it for them. And it's called Four Visions Market. So fourvisionsmarket.com. If you're interested in yet another healthy gut microbiome enhancement tool, I've been using that. And in our house, everyone tested positive for COVID but me. And
wow.
I'm attributing it to that. I don't know anything, but I'm guessing that probably helped out immensely, along with Wim Hof breathing and meditation, which I've been doing daily throughout this whole C word crisis,
Yeah. Yeah.
There's so much we can learn and do and try out and experiment with. And I just want to filter people your way, because I know that what you guys are doing is just immense. It's huge. It's very helpful. You're a nutritionist. You're a life coach. You have empowered and helped so many people so far. And I just can't wait to see what you do in the future.
I appreciate the conversation.
Oh yeah. Thank you so much for being on the show. Is there anything you want to leave with everyone before we close out?
I think all I would say is, get clear on what it is that you want to create for yourself in your health, and go for it. There's no limitations. You can change. Our body is resilient. You can create and change your body completely. And it just takes, it takes some consistency. And don't underestimate the power of a small, tiny change. Even if that change is, one less sugar in your coffee in the morning, right? That will add up and make a difference over time. But just implement small things in your life if you want to improve your health and make change, and start small. And if you like we talked about earlier, if you want to get somewhere faster, then find someone to help you. Get a coach and get after it, because there's nothing I can think of better. Like I think of what was the quote I heard, and it was like, there's nothing more someone will want for themselves than a better health. Like when you lose your health, right? There's nothing else in the world that you want, right? No amount of money, no amount of anything. When you lose your health, it really sucks. And I've been there, and and sometimes it's sad, but sometimes that's what it takes for someone to make those changes, is to completely lose their health. But don't get to that place, and be proactive and preventative, and take care of your health.
And the Greeks have a saying, it's it's basically, if you don't have your health, you've got nothing. And it's so true. I'll forever echo these sentiments and these teachings, simply because the results don't lie. And I've experienced the results of the consistent compounding of that 1%, these little tiny incremental, seemingly meaningless steps along the way that get us to where we are now, and that can get us to where we want to expand into, for sure. Thank you for being a guest on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
For everyone out there, the whole point behind this podcast really is to provide opportunities to connect with individuals like Cristina, to upgrade and up-level different aspects of our lives in order to literally live better, live healthier, live more well and whole and complete. It's all about remembering what we truly are as a divine, eternal energy existing forever, that has been temporarily downloaded into a human body. And we can interact with this body through what we ingest and create it in a more optimal way, and enjoy life forever in a better state. For anyone interested, at goodinthehead.com, I've written a few books. One is the Habit Hacking Challenge. A great one that I post every day is just a read a day, basically, out of the year. And it's called My Daily Perspective Shift. If you go to goodinthehead.com, click on the menu, you can find these things under there. In the show notes for this presentation, this interview, I'm going to be posting it on YouTube shortly today. Here we are, May 21st, 2022. And I'll be adding some show notes with links to Cristina, different ways that you can get a hold of her, acquire her as a coach, and absorb all that she's learned much more quickly than she has. You know, we can compound years of experience into days or weeks through a coach or through books and through learning. And so I really appreciate you. I acknowledge you and Jason for all you've done, the inspiration you've been to me in so many ways. And I just really thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
And then, all right, we're gonna close out